Are you dreaming about buying a home, but you're just kind of unsure of where to start financially? Buying a house is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make. Being financially prepared is one of the best things you can ever do to save time, money, and energy. My name is Ben Quann. I'm an associate broker here in Virginia, and today we're going to be breaking down the financial roadmap on how to buy a house. Let's get into it. Step 1, assess your financial health. There's a couple ways to go about this. Let's evaluate your current savings, your income, and your debts. So really all we have to do is create a budget. I don't understand how folks live without a budget, to be honest. Me and my wife, every month we sit down, we look at the budget, we see everything we have coming out, what we think we have coming out. So think of like gifts and events that we have going on, plus all the money that we have coming in as well. And then we figure out where all of our money lays at, and then we assign everything. So we always put our money into savings or into something. Or if we decide we want to go on a trip or something, we budget for that. We never just kind of don't do a budget and see where all of our money lands. It just never works out. So one thing you can check out is your debt to income. Now, this is something a lender is really going to be doing for you, but it is a good way to figure out where you're kind of financially set prior to going in. Plus, it's just a good thing for you to know anyway. So we're going to add up all your debt. So these things are going to be affecting your credit score: mortgage, car loans, credit card loans, personal loans, and really any other monthly debt obligations. We're going to calculate all that up, add it up, and then you're going to add up all your income in a separate column. And this is before taxes. So your gross income. You're going to divide those numbers, and then it's going to spit out a percentage. So let's run the scenario real quick. You have $2,000 worth of debt. You have $6,000 worth of income. You have a 33.3% debt to income. And every loan program is going to be different on what they like to see for a debt to income. Some go up into the 60s. Some you have to be in the 40s. So having a 33% debt to income is a good day. Obviously, the higher the debt ratio, the more liability you are for the bank. And I've seen people that have made a lot of money, and they've all struggled with debt to income because lifestyle creep, and they end up just spending more every month than what they make, even though they make a lot of money. So it's not really about how much money you make, it's about how much money you can keep. And then the last thing, let's actually create like a real budget. These things are also going to think about like groceries, electric bills, sewage bills, gym memberships, anything else that's not really a debt obligation as far as like a credit score is concerned, but things that you know you're going to be spending when you go out and have fun, all those kind of things. The big thing is we need to make sure you have enough money. We need to make sure you're budgeting properly, because I never want you to call me and tell me you're house poor and we have to sell the house. That's just not fun for me, and it's definitely not fun for you guys. Step 2, boost your credit. Now, I'm not a big fan of the whole credit gods scenario. I think it's very weird that everything's so credit driven and you can make $1 million, but if you don't have a credit score, you can't loan money or borrow money. But ultimately, with most all of these loan programs, they are going to be credit driven to some point. Let's think about this. There are some loan programs that just require a minimum score to get in. Once you get in, you're pretty much good. Doesn't really affect much if you have a really high credit score or really low credit score. But there's going to be a minimum threshold to get into that loan program. Versus a conventional where you're putting a lot of money down, that is going to be very credit driven. So you're going to want excellent credit. If your credit score is low, we need to work on that, either to get it up to just get a loan or to get your best rate possible. Trying to keep credit cards under that 30% limit of their max credit limit is a good idea too. You start getting a little risky when you start running out those credit cards, and ideally you're trying to keep it 10% or under. And I guess really even better, have it paid off. Credit history is also a big thing. Don't close out those credit cards. Keep them open, cut the cards if you want to, but don't close those credit accounts. So obviously another one would be limiting your hard pools. So obviously you don't want to be applying for a lot of different loans or anything while you're in this process. And that also includes small credit cards, store credit cards, furniture, any like thing that you're going to try to finance, appliances, that new furniture for that house, all things that might require credit. You do not want to do at this point. One thing that the lender is going to do is pool that credit score, which is going to be a little bit different than say Credit Karma or something like that. They're actually based off different credit ratings. So I think one goes to like a 900 and one goes to an 800. So they are different on the credit score ratings, but they do kind of correlate together. You have a higher on the consumer side, so the Credit Karma, you're going to have a higher credit score, say when that lender pulls it as well. But when that lender pulls that credit, sometimes you'll find some errors that are just on there, some old debts that weren't cleared out, some things that shouldn't be on there and you can dispute. and actually get them removed. You could do things with a lender called a rescore, where they actually can provide the documents and get it rescored really quick compared to like what me and you can do. And then the last thing also is just diversify your credit. Don't have too many of one things. Credit cards, auto loans, and a mortgage are better than just say all credit cards. So all these things can help boost your credit score, and I do recommend doing that. Like I said from the beginning, I'm not really a huge fan of this whole credit score driven society that we're in right now, but unfortunately, you got to pay to play. And credit score goes a long ways when it comes to buying a house. Step number 3, saving for upfront cost. Now, we've talked about this a lot on our loan breakdowns and those things, but things like down payment, closing cost, and any moving expenses, whether that be movers or you're renting a truck, or maybe you want to paint that house. There's upfront costs that you need to be preparing for. All right, and one of the last things I'm going to leave you with when we're talking about saving money is get a high yield savings account. Highly recommend them. There's other things out there like CDs and bonds, but high yield savings account right now, at least in my world, are paying between 4 and 5%. And it's just an easy way for your money to collect some sort of interest and make money instead of sitting there just in a normal savings account. One thing I also never recommend, don't invest your money, not for this period. We want to save all that upfront cost. We don't want to accidentally lose if the market takes a downturn. Best case scenario, put it in a high yield savings account. I think they're great. And that's where I store all my cash personally. I'm not a financial advisor. Next step, let's research some mortgage options. There's 3 that we're going to touch on today: FHA, VA, and conventional. There's other options out there, don't get me wrong, but those are your 3 main. If you look at like the breakdown of the loan types, those are like the 3 main that you're going to see all the time. If you're VA eligible, that's the way to go. Hands down, not even a question. If you're disabled by any means, that's even better for you. Being a VA. Thank you for your service for sure. But VA is just like the best loan program out there as far as we're concerned if you're a veteran. 100% financing, depending on your disability and stuff like that, you might be able to get some fees waived. Of course, you have no taxes on the back end here in Virginia, which is really cool. But again, 100% financing and just a really good loan. FHA is another really good loan. A lot of first-time home buyers, they're more lenient on your debt to income. We talked about that earlier in the video. A really good program, 3.5% down. Now, there are some grant programs out there that kind of piggyback for that 3.5% down with like say a 2% grant and other things that a lender can talk to you about. It's kind of over my pay grade, but there are options with like VHGA that you can almost get 100%, if not 100% financing for that loan. FHA, one thing to think about there is the mortgage insurance never goes away. It's the life of the loan, which leads me into my next one. A conventional loan. Conventional loan is what you think about when you hear you got to put 20% down. And that's kind of a myth because there are other programs that a conventional loan can go down to say 5%. You can put more down as well. A good rule of thumb is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. But I've seen people put even more down. And if you're a first-time home buyer, they have a home ready program, which is 3% down. That's a really good program for first-time home buyers. Now, when you're a conventional loan, once you get 20% equity into the property or you put 20% down, you have no mortgage insurance. It's a great product as well. Everybody's scenario is a little bit different, and this is where I always recommend talk to a local lender. Speaking of that, your next step is getting pre-approved. Now, whether you talk to me or you talk to a realtor first or we talk to a lender first, doesn't really matter. You're gonna need to do both. And I suggest doing both prior to ever even thinking about looking at houses. There's so many options out there when it comes to mortgages, and then having a good local realtor that kind of has all the options when it comes to housing, they kind of pair together really well. And when you have a good lender and you have good houses, it narrows down your time because we're looking at the right product. There's other programs out there like USDA that only work for certain areas, or could be some of these grant programs only work for a certain budget with household income. And so until we get you pre-approved, we don't really know your financial status. And that's also going to limit us into kind of an area that we need to be looking at. So there's 2 different processes: pre-qualified, pre-approved. Pre-qualified's the easy, quick credit pool, looking at what you said on the application, income, jobs, where you live, that kind of stuff. Less reliable. It doesn't hold as much weight as say a pre-approval. Pre-approval is not only they're checking everything you said, but they're verifying as well. So they want to see your W-2, your tax returns, your bank accounts. They're also going to do that hard credit pool to check your credit score. And they're bundling this all together to give you that pre-approval letter. And when I'm a selling agent, I'm looking at 2 things: Are you pre-approved or pre-qualified? I'd like to see you pre-approved if I'm accepting this for my seller, because that just means that lender's taking the extra step. It does take a little bit longer to get you pre-approved. And then if we're talking about being financially ready, the last thing I'm going to talk about is budgeting for ongoing cost, right? So we have our taxes, we have our insurance that are going to be balled up into your escrow. But other things to think about are maintenance on that house. And there's a couple different ways you can think about this. When you own a house, good rule of thumb is 1% of the house value every year you save. So if it's a $300,000 house, $3,000. This is what you want to save every year for ongoing maintenance things. Another rule is $1 per square foot. So if it's a 2,000 square foot house, $2,000 is what you aim to save. And then the last one's the 10-year rule. You just think about all the big utilities. The good rule of thumb is 10 years as a lifespan. That they could last a little bit longer, they could last less. Don't want to ever promise you anything. But things like roofs usually last, let's say, 20 or 30 years. But HVAC or hot water heaters can last, say, 8 to 12 years. I've seen them last longer and I've seen them last less, even roofs. So if we take all the big utilities and kind of figure out how much it's going to cost to replace those things and divide them for the next 10 years, that's a good way to save as well. Look, preparing for home ownership doesn't have to be overwhelming, especially if you have a good financial plan in place. With these steps, you're really setting yourself up to win. If you're ready to dive deep in any of these subjects, you can book a call with me and we can go over these things way more in detail. And if you're looking for more content like this, check out my last video on how to sell a house quick in Virginia. It's packed with tips that can help you when you're getting ready to list that house. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.